Okay, I think we're good. I think we're good here. Definitely some interesting moves today in the market. Definitely some exciting things moving with respect to everything that's going on in the stock market. Kind of wild what we're experiencing in today's market. There's there's definitely a lot of movement on things in today's stock market. A lot of pretty big moves. On just down 8% today on some guidance and some concerns about valuation for the company. I mean, at a roughly $2.75 billion valuation, things were looking a little bit stretched there for Ondas for a while. So definitely something worth paying attention to. Big moves with CoreWeave and Nebius. The market really liked what they saw with respect to both companies' earnings reports. But one thing I do have to say is that market rally we saw earlier this morning was pretty short-lived. We're basically back down to where we closed yesterday for both these companies. So definitely some interesting news on that front. And with respect to Nebius, things are actually a bit worse. So NeoClouds had a very, very strong day after their second quarter earnings reports came out, and their market rallies have calmed down quite a bit since the beginning of this morning. How's my short position in CoreWeave? So, Jorn, I had two short positions in CoreWeave. I closed out one of them last week. The other one I do have, I'm down on. I am down on CoreWeave. The short position that I still have open on CoreWeave, I opened at $95 a share, so I'm down a little bit on that. But here's the thing: my conviction on CoreWeave's position and CoreWeave's valuation has actually increased. This company's balance sheet health deteriorated significantly between the first and the second quarter 2026. They added a lot more high interest rate, variable rate debt to their balance sheet. Their interest expense quarter over quarter grew by more than $100 million. We have also seen growth in revenue, which has been impressive, but operating margins and net margins are still negative for the company. And in addition to that, they also have said that they will probably need to dilute investors even further and maybe even raise more debt in order to achieve what they want to achieve. So, am I down on my short on CoreWeave? Well, yeah, I'm down. I'm down a little bit. Has my conviction changed? Has my position changed about CoreWeave? No, absolutely not. I still think that this company is not a good investment. This is not a good business. And I think in the medium to long term, things are going to get worse then. Are they losing less money? With respect to losing less money for CoreWeave, I believe that they're losing more. Or actually, no, I think they lost a little bit less. Let me pull up their latest 10Q here really quick because I was taking a look at it this morning. Compared to last quarter, I believe it's a little bit less than what it was. It's still not great, though. It's still not great on either of those fronts. Thoughts on Nebius earnings? Has my position changed from it? Jacob, with Nebius, I mean, for Nebius, like here's their latest 13K right here. If we look and we compare the 6 months ended, so profitability got worse for Nebius. Over the 6 months since the beginning of this year in 2026, the company has lost $310 million. Now, with respect to Nebius, is their position as bad as CoreWeave's was? No, I don't think Nebius is in as bad of a position because their net margins aren't nearly as bad. This has to do with the fact that they have less interest expense, and they're also counting gains from equity investments on their income statement as well. So as far as profitability is concerned, and the fact that these guys follow IFRS standards as opposed to GAAP standards, they can probably do this. I still don't like Nebius, still don't like NeoClouds in general. And, still haven't changed it still hasn't, moved my position. Did I add more to my CoreWeave short? Big Ang, I closed one of my CoreWeave positions last week. I did not add more to my current CoreWeave short position that I have. Why was CoreWeave up a lot and then dropped today? Probably because of the fact that I imagine investors are taking profits in all of this stuff. I mean, when you're up to nearly 118, 117 bucks a share earlier this morning, and with Nebius, I think they broke 270, which was pretty interesting. Yeah, and they've come down quite a bit. This has to be profit taking, I would imagine. But even still, the finances of some of these neoclouds is quite dubious. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. What do I think about SanDisk? SanDisk had a pretty insane day. Definitely interesting to see this. Their investor day, I think, really moved the stock a lot. They had talked a lot about how they're going to see continued, 13, 14, 15% growth, and that they're probably going to see 80% gross margins. I mean, that's kind of wild. So that's something that I think is good news if you're an investor in SanDisk. But to be honest, I don't know. We'll see. Nebius to $400. I'd be very surprised if that happens. Thoughts on Honeywell Aerospace? I dumped my position in Honeywell Aerospace. I was a shareholder at some point, but we'll see. Thoughts on Ondas earnings today? Mixed view for me. Yeah, Ondas. Sometimes I think with good earnings reports that Ondas came out with, they had really strong Q2 revenue. And their guidance for the rest of the year is good. The problem is that the valuation. I think investors kind of saw the valuation. They were like, I don't know about this. Did you check Fox Tungsten Limited? Do you remember? Jack, here's the thing. I didn't stream yesterday because I just got power back in my house this morning. I was affected by all those massive storms that came across the United States over the last couple of days. I lost power at my house for more than a day. It was not good. Have you changed your thoughts on neoclouds? No, Kermit. In fact, you could probably say I've dug my heels in more. The balance sheet quality got even worse on some of these companies. So could you check CURI and tell me what you think? Yeah, let's take a look. Curiosity Stream Inc. Oh, wow, okay. They're having a very good day. Interesting micro cap. Wow, they're paying a yield, or they're paying a dividend on losing money at this size? Who are these guys? What do they do? Entertainment, video and audio programming, services in various categories from factual, including science, history. Okay. Oh, wait. Yeah, I've heard of Curiosity Stream. I had no idea these guys were publicly traded. Interesting. Huh. Wow, they're up. Why are they up so well? It's probably because was it their earnings report? Let's go check their basic fundamentals here on Barron's to kind of see why things are going so well for them. We'll go to the quarter-over-quarter look. Wow, Q2 was very good for them. I imagine they very recently reported that. Huh, interesting. I don't, with respect to Curiosity Stream and it being a good company to invest in, I'd have to give it some thought and kind of take a look at their fundamentals more. But a very, very, very good day. Is everything good with me? Yeah, Jack, I appreciate it. Because I would have been online yesterday and streaming everything to you guys. I wanted to give my initial gut reaction right after Nebius and CoreWeave earnings, but I didn't have power. Didn't have power at my house. Can we look at Fervo Energy? Mac, do you have a ticker for them? Thoughts on Rolls-Royce? JV, do you have a ticker? Can you give me a ticker? Views on quantum computing. Jacob, I am bullish on quantum computing long term. Right now, I think things are a little bit early for quantum computing. I do like what a lot of these quantum computing companies are doing. Rigetti Computing did have a solid quarter, but the thing is that it's a pretty ugly income statement, guys. I mean, you're throwing money into a black hole. I think the commercial viability of this will continue to improve in the future, but the thing is that there's a lot that still needs to happen, in my opinion. Okay, let's check out Rolls-Royce really quick. Oops, wrong one. Rolls-Royce Holdings. Yeah, so with Rolls-Royce, and I believe we were just looking at the engines, no? Yeah, defense and power systems. So here's the thing with Rolls-Royce and their market share, I mean, they're kind of like the Airbus to the Boeing that is General Electric or GE Aviation, right? Um, it's not unreasonably valued. Um, you get a decent beta for your investment, so the cost of capital probably isn't too high. But with respect to them, I mean, you're probably not going to see a ton of growth. I mean, how'd they do this year? They had a pretty damn good year. There's no denying that fact. How about, are they at 1 year highs? Yeah, they are. They're at 52 or near 52-week highs. As far as the fundamentals for Rolls-Royce are concerned, they're pretty dang good. I'd expect it to behave a little bit more defensively than it is. There's probably a good bull case to be made. It could be a good one. It could be a good investment. Thoughts on Applied Materials? Reese, I like Applied Materials. I'm a shareholder of Applied Materials. Can we look at the financials of AppLovin? Yeah, after they had an absolutely disastrous this month has just not been good for them, especially over the last week. With AppLovin, and we can just go look at a quarter-over-quarter view, because by this time, Barron's should have their basic fundamental results up. Yeah, so for Q2 26, things were okay. We had revenue growth. Net margin was relatively the same. Balance sheet seems fine, and it looks like it's free cash flow positive. I believe it was guidance that freaked a lot of investors out about what was going on with AppLovin. Now, I'd have to understand, in order for me to like see if this is a good buy the dip opportunity, it's twofold for me. First, I'd have to look at their current revenue streams and quality of earnings. And second, I'd need to see how they plan on using their cash. Bought 5 shares of SpaceX. Am I cooked? Not if you're going to hold it for 20 years, Cameron. Ethereum is a current buy. Kidney, I don't really follow crypto. They missed guidance slightly. Yeah, so oftentimes that can be an overreaction by the market. It could be a good buy the dip opportunity. I'd have to understand their business more. ASTS JV, it's too much execution risk for ASTS for me. They've had a good month. They definitely recovered from where they were at the end of July, but the thing is that it's pretty big execution risk. It's a binary outcome, in my opinion, for this company. They'll either make it or they won't, and you either believe in it or you don't. And personally, for me, I don't believe in it. Robinhood's cool. We'll see with Robinhood. I would take it over SoFi if I'm being honest. Bought ASTS at 57. There you go, Trekna. Nice. Robinhood's having a great day. Nice. Joseph, with respect to Ondas, I think that Ondas did have a good quarter. I mean, they broke their revenue record, and the contracts that they're getting is promising news. It's expensive, though. Like, it's expensive for a small defense contractor like they are. I'd like to see things come down a little bit. Being a shareholder of Ondas over the past, 6 to 8 weeks here's what they've done over the last month. This is great. This is awesome. It's a bit expensive for me, though. Ondas might go up to 12. Why 12 though? Like, why not $12.50 a share? Why not 13? Why not 11.90? Why 12? Has SanDisk run its course? No. SanDisk has not run its course. Its investor day, definitely the market liked what it heard from its investor day. I mean, when you're up 12% on a day like today, there's a lot to be excited about. I know their guidance for this first quarter 2027 is not going to be as good, though. Keel, good or bad? Honestly, I'm not a fan of Keel. And what about BlackBerry? BlackBerry's a meme. I don't take BlackBerry seriously. I bought AMAT $500 puts. Interesting. Because I like AMAT. I've been a shareholder of AMAT for a very long time. Why? What makes you why'd you decide to do this? Sold CoreWeave for a good profit away. Too volatile, could keep -20 tomorrow. Jamie, I'm a CoreWeave short seller. I have a big short position in CoreWeave. I got out of one of my shorts in CoreWeave. Still have one of them open. I'm down on it, of course, after the Q2 report, but I'm its balance sheet is very ugly. CapEx mostly. Fair. Understand that. We are going to find out in about an hour, though, with their earnings. So I'm excited. We'll see how the market does. Honeywell Aerospace, do you like this one? Honestly, I like, as far as Honeywell's concerned, I'm not a huge fan. Can we look at PSFE? Yeah. PlaySafe Limited. I've maybe looked at these guys once before. I need a quick reminder on what they do. Digital payment solutions in Germany. Okay, yeah. Got it. Okay, so they got wallets. Pay by bank. Nice. Okay. And they're up 18% today. Probably on the good news that they got. Interesting. I thought these guys were bigger. They're only a $418 million market cap. Pretty. It's probably pretty volatile, and they're not making money at this point. How bad is that, though? What do their base fundamentals look like from a quarterly perspective? So they're not breaking even at $442 million in revenue. Wow, and that's a lot of debt. That's probably a lot of debt, because for a payments company, I mean, you may have like operating lease liabilities that you're on the hook for, and maybe like some AP. Inventory, though, isn't going to be. I mean, my goodness, that's $4 billion in total liabilities to 4.6 in assets. And their free cash flow, they might be free cash flow positive. So I'd have to take a look and see what their cash flow statement looks like. To be honest, I'm gonna steer clear, because this is probably as good as it's gonna get for them for a while. How have they done so far this year? Yeah, it's quite volatile. Thoughts on Oracle? Maddox, honestly, I'm not a fan. I may end up shorting Oracle. They have a lot of credit risk on their balance sheet. Do you think the new center for Tesla and SpaceX will cause a dip in microchip stocks? To be honest, no. What do I think of photonics? It's an interesting space given where we are. I think companies like AAOI, Lumentum are in an interesting position. The problem is, though, is that they definitely, like, at some point they need to start, like, they have to have something to show for the revenue that they're making. Thoughts on Apple 11 took a beating recently. JR, I might take a look at it, to be honest, because of the massive correction that the market priced in recently. It could be a good buy the dip opportunity for Apple 11. Keel, no, I'm not a fan of Keel Infrastructure. What are my thoughts on ASTS? Way too much execution risk. How's Intel looking? This I actually haven't looked at Intel in a bit. Okay, so we're back up above 104 per share on Intel. It did have a great Q2 earnings report. There's a lot to like. They're making the right moves. It's going to take a lot of time, though, I think, with Intel. This is too expensive. Sir, I missed what you were saying about AAOI. So I like, it's an interesting space. I mean, like, as far as there's a lot to like about this space. They're in a, like, obviously they're going to be capturing more revenue in the future because of data centers that are going to be built, and the resulting fiber needs, that kind of stuff. Their quality of earnings, though, is something I'd be interested in looking at, and what their expenses are, because companies like Lumentum, AAOI, as big as they are, they're not making money. So, like, here, looking at AAOI's base fundamentals, just looking at how it's done over the last couple of quarters, financial statement wise. See, like, it hasn't. This is fine, but at a certain point, you got to capture economies of scale at some point, because your losses are expanding. They did $192 million in revenue and lost $23 million on that. The balance sheet looks good, though. The balance sheet looks like it's improving. I'd imagine, though, that this may be an equity dilution right here. They may have diluted their shareholders. And, Q2 26, the free cash flow negative by a big factor. So I got to read their filings. I got to take a closer look. There are things to like about it, though. How about Marvel? Marvel's a bit expensive for me. I'd rather own shares in Micron. Thoughts on Uber? With respect to Uber and the recent moves by politicians getting into the stock, that's exciting. It's interesting. I know a lot of people kind of base their thesis on what they see with respect to where politicians decide to place their money. What would be interesting for me about Uber is I'd almost rather own stock in Grab to see if Uber acquires Grab. Because that seems like something that's probably, I feel like something that might happen. You think about JP Morgan? I own stock in JP Morgan. It's a solid bank. I'm probably never going to sell my shares in it. What do you think about Palantir's huge run? I almost want to say it's well deserved. And this is because of just the fundamentals in Palantir have been extremely impressive lately. I have to admit, I'm very impressed with their growth. I'm very impressed with everything that's going on with Palantir. The problem is that they have a high cost of capital. Because of the beta. I mean, they've got a 1.5 beta on a $432 billion market cap. I mean, I did a whole DCF on Palantir. It's like around a 14% weighted average cost of capital at the moment. The price is just, for what you're getting, the earnings that you're getting for the price that you're paying is just not enough. The price, like at 155 PE, the market is pricing in perfection. And they may continue to have fantastic growth. Will they have the same growth that they did this last quarter in, say, 12 quarters? Maybe not. I think Palantir is probably going to correct. Here's what they've looked like over the last month. I'd imagine they're probably going to correct. I'd say somewhere to the 140, 150 range. Uber acquiring Grab is unlikely. What makes you say that, Peach Gold? Because you may know more than I do. I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are. What about AppLovin? I mean, AppLovin could be a good buy the tip opportunity. Do I think Netflix is on its way back up? Maybe. Maybe. It was not great guidance, though. I did not like what management had to say about Q2. Thoughts on ARM and Hewlett Packard? HP, I think, is appropriately priced. And what about Corsair? Corsair Gaming, CRSR, these guys? Asked about Corsair at 9 a few weeks ago. What do I think now? Did they recently announce earnings? Like within the last week or so, or maybe 2 weeks ago or something like this? Because if they did, that can certainly change things. Their next one's on November 3rd. They may have announced, which may have moved the stock. Oh, yeah, here we go. Yeah, on August 6th, they popped quite a bit. Nice. Looks like they're profitable. Cool. No, that's good news. That's great news. Ackman likes Netflix even after he got rinsed for $400 million. Yeah. Yeah. I've sat on the sidelines with Netflix. I probably will continue to sit on the sidelines with Netflix for now. What do you think happens with Nvidia after their earnings in a few weeks? We'll see. I think the big story with Nvidia right now is so I don't know if you guys saw, but Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, is basically trying to create a I'm going to zoom out just a little bit and reposition this just a second. There we go. Jensen Huang, for those of you who may or may not know, recently, and actually, no, that's bad. Recently announced he's trying to create an NVIDIA chip-backed security. So much like you can get mortgage-backed securities, he's trying to create NVIDIA microchip-backed securities. And he was recently on Squawk Box with a whole bunch of leaders in the finance space to basically build a $500 billion pool of capital to have tradable bonds backed by NVIDIA GPUs. Now, with respect to what that's going to end up doing to NVIDIA's earnings, it'll be interesting to see, but this is like kind of insane. And we'll see. Can you give your opinion on Nokia? Nokia, like BlackBerry, in my opinion, is a meme. At what point to resize into Amazon seems like a correction's going on? I think, honestly, any of the hyperscalers except CoreWeave are at interesting prices. I recently posted a video on which I like the most and which I like the least. Oracle is my least favorite. Microsoft is my most favorite. Google is a very close second to Microsoft, though. With respect to Amazon, I still think this is a very attractive price. So as far as any sort of local corrections that are occurring, I'm not concerned about this. Nokia has over 100 telecommunications patents. Let's not talk about things we don't know about. Sure. And how many of those patents are making them money? Are all 100? What do you think about USAR? Are these stocks too high? I think USAR is a great way to get exposure into rare earth for which there's no futures market. That's what I like about USA Rare Earth. Typically, I don't love mining companies just because of the fact that the true value lies in the commodity itself. So I don't buy gold miners or silver miners. I'd rather just buy gold or silver futures. With respect to a company like USA Rare Earth, they mine stuff like samarium. They mine stuff like neodymium. They mine stuff like, I believe, palladium as well. Gallium. Yeah. I mean, some pretty rare stuff. So that's why I think it's an interesting play. What stocks do I own for the long term? I own Apple, JP Morgan. I'm a Lockheed Martin shareholder. I'm probably not going to sell my shares in Lockheed Martin. I'm also a shareholder in Applied Materials, Reddit, Take-Two Interactive, these kinds. Do you have an opinion on defense stocks? I think that defense contractors you can make the argument that defense contractors like Lockheed, like Rheinmetall, like Northrop Grumman, RTX, these guys have some of the highest quality of earnings of any company anywhere. And that's because their biggest customers are governments, and government contracts are a surefire way to get paid as long as you deliver. If you checked out Saab, if not, you should check it together with Rheinmetall. Saab would be an interesting one to look at too. Yeah, no, I think that's a good call. Olaf. IMBS, yeah. Intelligent Biosolutions. I haven't heard of these guys. What do they do? Medical tech company focuses on delivering non-invasive testing screening solutions for what? Intelligent fingerprinting drug screening system. Huh, okay. Not a ton of thoughts about these guys so far, to be honest. It looks like they're losing a lot of money. How do their base fundamentals look? Oh, jeez. So I know you guys can't see this. They did $3 million in revenue in 2025, and they lost 10.6. Yeah, no, absolutely not. No, thank you. They did $1 million in revenue in Q1 26, and they lost nearly $3 million. And that the quality of their balance sheet has deteriorated. Not a fan. Looking to get bought out, though, by who? Who's looking to buy them? Like, who's looking to buy these guys? What are some low buy-in stocks that you think have a good chance to boom and you hold? Oni, I think Reddit is a good one. I think that there's a good chance we'll see Reddit go up quite a bit. I am also a fan of Take-Two Interactive, TTWO. And I'm also a fan of Elf Cosmetics, although they may be very close to my target price. They did have a nice run-up recently. Yeah, and they're just kind of hanging out at around the 90 to 95 range. My target price for this company is about $100 a share. We've gotten close to that. And what's pretty cool is that I released a deep dive video on Elf Cosmetics around here in July, like mid-late July. And it turns out it was the right call. CoreWeave to the moon. Yeah, Wilt. No, I mean, listen, you're right. The market loved what they saw. I'm down on my current short position in CoreWeave, but the quality of the company's balance sheet just got worse. They're basically their operating net margins are stagnant with solid revenue growth that they had. Interest expense grew by over $100 million. They had to raise another $2.5 billion floating rate credit facility. No, like I like this company even less than I did. What's this website? This is Yahoo Finance right here. Have you spoken about Hive? Just got here. No, I have not spoken about Hive. Hive Technologies. Who are these guys? Okay, another micro cap. What kind of technologies do they have? Builds and operates data centers powered by green energy in Bermuda, Paraguay, Sweden, and Canada. Very interesting. Okay, so they're a crypto miner, and they're based in San Antonio. I'm not super, as far as crypto, I'm not like, I don't follow it too closely. And if you have a crypto miner that's using its GPUs to help try and find more Bitcoin or Ethereum as opposed to renting out those GPUs for AI model training or whatever, that feels like a mistake. And it looks like they're losing money. And like with a $750 million market cap and a beta of nearly 3. Yeah, revenue and profitability don't look great for these guys, and they're free cash flow negative. I'd like to know how much runway they have left. Not a huge fan of them, to be honest. What's this website? Read. This is Yahoo Finance that we're looking at right here. Why don't I like CoreWeave? Because CoreWeave is doing a lot of shady stuff, like going into a massive amount of debt. The fundamentals on CoreWeave got worse than they did last quarter. They don't even, here's the funny thing, you guys. CoreWeave, they don't even identify who their main customers are. In their filing, they literally call it customer A, customer B, customer C, customer D. And the other thing, too, is that their revenue growth this quarter was because of growth in the growth in the contracts of current customers, not new ones. So their revenue quality is deteriorating. They're becoming more and more and more reliant on current customers that they have, which isn't a very high number. Hang on, I'm looking. So this is their filing right here. This is CoreWeave's 10Q, their latest one. Hang on, I'm going to adjust this so that way you guys can see it. Okay. This is not like this is not good. Yeah. So significant customers that counted for more than 10% of the company's revenue for these periods. For the 3 months ended, customer A is 36%, customer B is 26%, customer C is 10%, and then D did not represent more than 10% of revenue. Compared to last year, things improved a little bit, but the thing is that they're not telling us who this is. Why don't they want to tell us who this is? They're hiding from the public who their customers are. And by the way, people always like to talk about their revenue backlog, also known as RPO. RPO and contracted revenue are not the same thing. RPO represents the aggregate amount of transaction price net of estimated variable consideration allocated to performance obligations not delivered, partially undelivered, or at the end of the reporting period. Variable consideration consists of potential reductions in the transaction price in the future, meaning the price per rent hour that they get for RTX 6000s get worse. But why does it matter who they are? Well, why shouldn't you tell us? There's companies all the time who admit on their filings who tell us who their biggest customers are. Elf Cosmetics is a good one. They say Amazon, Target, Walmart, and Amazon, Target, Walmart, and like I think it's Temu are their big four. Why can't CoreWeave tell us this? So their backlog is subject to all kinds of stuff that nobody wants to mention. Catfish or discard Nike? A lot of people don't like Nike. I'm hanging on to my couple of shares of Nike. I think that Nike's. I trust their management team. I think they're making the right moves. The good news or the bad news is much, much, much more heavily focused on than the good news at Nike, and almost to an unfair degree, in my opinion. So if the market thinks that Nike's worth $41 a share, that's all right. I mean, I did a DCF analysis on them with some modest growth assumptions that indicates they could be worth as much as 57 per share. Thoughts on AECOM? Yeah, how's a big construction company like AECOM doing? Wow, only an $8.1 billion market cap. Interesting. I'd imagine their margins are pretty thin, which is why we're getting a low PE out of these guys. They're at 23 times earnings, and you get a beta that's less than 1, which isn't bad. Yep. Pretty thin margins. It looks like they actually lost a little bit of money in the second quarter. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. Like, you should be, if you're a construction company and you're not making money hand over fist with all these data centers being built, then something might be wrong. It might be a guidance problem with them. They're having a great day today, but they've had a pretty rough year. Look at AECOM's 3-year. You can look at their 5. Great run up. But this is when everybody really started spending money. This is when hyperscaler CapEx went through the roof here in 2025. And then there was a huge correction right here. I don't know what happened right here. Was this people realizing it was too expensive or profit taking? Honestly, I don't follow AECOM that closely, but huge job loss. I'm an ex-employee. Oh, got it. Do you think I'll break even on my SpaceX investment next week or two? I mean, at 155 per share. JFK job was a disaster. Oh no, that's not good. What's SpaceX sitting at? Maybe with SpaceX. Is it going to get to 155 within the next week or two? Hard to say. Work for WSV competitor, same crash. Yikes. CoreWeave lists them as A, B, C, and D for protecting sensitive competitive data, trade secrets, and pricing. So they're concealing who their customers are, even in a graph that just represents what percentage of their revenue comes from each of those customers. How's that exposing a trade secret? How's that exposing something that they, some proprietary data? And plus, they've got, they've got all kinds of swaps and warrants and convertible notes and all that kind of stuff. It's a messy balance sheet. What does it mean if Sav's beta is 0.03? Is that normal? That's very low for a beta. Thoughts on Forgent Power? To be honest, Will, I haven't heard of these guys. Who are they? Okay, cool. Designs, manufacturers, electrical distribution equipment used in data centers, power grid, energy. Okay. So they got switches, generator cabinets, low voltage switch gear, transformers. Huh. Okay, cool. $11.5 billion market cap. Interesting. They're in an interesting segment. As far as what would move this company's stock price, I'd imagine it would be guidance based on the projects that they have under contract. Here's what the last couple of quarters have looked like. We have $378 million in revenue, which is good. $378 million in revenue on, about $19 million in net income. Balance sheet seems okay. Am I cautious in all space stocks right now? KD, I am, just because of valuations at the moment. It's valuations that are just kind of like making me a little bit like, we'll see. That's kind of my main concern about space stocks at the moment. Ondas thoughts? I mean, obviously they had good earnings, but in a good quarterly report. Expensive though. It's expensive, and I think that's probably why they're down nearly 9%. A lot of people are kind of realizing, like, these guys have to grow first before we get some big news out of them. Evan Carpenter on YouTube says, "What about Cisco?" Yeah, I know that Cisco did not have a good day. Oof. Yeah, rough day. According to Yahoo Finance, I guess margin compression is the main concern for these guys. And they had positive guidance moving into 2027. So if there is margin compression for these guys, and wow, they've had an extremely good year. That's an issue, despite the fact that there's positive guidance for 2027. I mean, I know that Cisco will probably continue to make money moving into the future. I think the market probably has priced this in. They just want to know how much. So, well, as far as Cisco, I mean, it would require me to compare the last couple of quarters and see exactly what management has said. Maybe read the investor relations report. Amot's not having a good day. Oh, boy. I know we got about a half hour. Yeah, down another 2%. It's actually not that bad. I will pull up their investor relations page. Okay, so Applied Materials, AMAT announces third quarter 2026 results. Record revenue $9.12 billion, up 25% year over year. Gross margin 50.3%, and non-GAAP gross margin was roughly the same. Earnings per share is $3.17, up 43% and 41% year over year, respectively. R&D partnerships expanded 11 engagements with leading chip makers. That's pretty dang good. $9.1 billion in Q3 26. That's solid. Cool. I'll read the rest of this, but and it looks like expectations from the market were about just over $9 billion. So it looks like they beat on revenue, maybe missed on earnings. That might be the reason why. Obsidian Therapeutics. Christian, do you have a ticker for them? What app is this? This is Yahoo Finance right here. Thoughts on MP? Um, they're in an interesting business. I mean, I think that to be honest, I know magnets and rare earths are different. I'd almost rather get into rare earths though. So I'd almost choose USAR over this. I know it's a bit of an apples and oranges comparison because it's not exactly the same thing. So yeah, I'm not like MP Materials is probably okay. It's probably a decent company. USAR would be more interesting to me. Iren, yeah, how was Iren doing today? I imagine they had a good week because a lot of neoclouds have. Yep, they did. How'd they do within the last couple days? Yeah, they almost got up to $50 a share again. For me, Iren's too expensive. Good price to buy AMAT. I'm still bullish on Applied Materials. They're one of the best semiconductor players. In my opinion, I think they do the best when it comes to semiconductors and in that technology. So I'm a big fan of them at this price. It's Baidu, a buy right now ahead of their earnings. To be honest, Wilt, I'd have to check. Can't say for sure. What about Coherent? Strong Q4 results. Revenue is up 34%. Nice. Looks like they're in the profitability. Like, nice. Okay, good. They're profitable. Around an 80 EPS. Coherent was on a watch list of mine a while back. It's no longer on it. I don't know why I removed them from my watch list. Yeah, and then the Barron's data isn't great for their financials. So to be honest, I'm not like I'd have to take a closer look at them, but if they've had a good result and the fundamentals improved, if a fundamentals improve of any publicly traded company, I like it. So if that happened for Coherent, that makes it maybe more intriguing for me to take a look at. Any thoughts on Nike and the tariff refund? I know that that's starting for them, but I don't know. We'll see. I know that's not that's not the key concern for Nike though. Their main concern is just moving that Chinese inventory and chipping away at market share that they lost from Hoka's on these types of companies. What website do you use to check the revenue and stuff? I screen stuff on TradingView sometimes. I screen stuff on Yahoo Finance, Barron's. But the real meat and potatoes of the work I do is in the filings and investor relations reports and other sources. So for Applied Materials, this is an interesting movement. I think that for Applied Materials, with the revenue beat, at least according to the sources from here, they did about 9.16 as opposed to 9.04. And EPS came in at $3.17 a share. That's probably why we're seeing negative movement on them. To be honest, though, I still like Applied Materials at this price. And still a shareholder of them. I've held shares in Applied Materials for a long time. This is one of my longest held investments. Can we look at OCR? Yeah, sure. Oscar Health. Healthcare tech, plants to individuals, families, and small group markets. Okay. Interesting. In addition, the company offers brokerage services and enrollment platform for brokers and consumers to shop, buy, and enroll in medical and health supplements. Huh. Okay. So I'd have to take a closer look on how exactly they make their money. Could be an interesting play. It sounds like they're a broker. 1.5 beta, which isn't terrible, and not. So they have 4.8 billion in revenue right here. on 361 million in net income. So it's quite a thin margin. They also have a pretty they got a liabilities heavy balance sheet. I'd need to know how much of that is debt, because I'd imagine that might be eating into their margin a bit. Is it insurance? Yeah. It says it's a broker and they like help with solutions and that kind of stuff. Could be an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, I'll throw them on a watch list. They had a good day today. How's their year been? It's been a fantastic year for these guys. Nice year so far, and the last 365 days have been quite good as well. Are you still holding CoreWeave? And what do you need to see to get out? I still hold my short position on CoreWeave. If my IRR goes north of 30% on my short in CoreWeave, I get out. My last short position was north of a 30 IRR on my CoreWeave short. So that's why I closed my other short. I shorted CoreWeave at $102 a share and then at $95 a share. Terrible short so far, Nick. Well, the first one was my first short I made a lot of money on. Since the Q2 earnings hasn't been great, but my position on this company hasn't changed. Things have gotten worse for them. KNSL, sure. Kinsale Capital Group, is this a shell company? Maybe not. Never heard of these guys. Oh, they're an insurance firm. Okay. Property and casualty insurance. Yeah, so this is pretty expensive for an insurer. 15 PE. Usually insurance companies are around, well, it's not too expensive. How have they done year to date? Insurance to me, like buying stock in an insurance company is not like it's a pretty defensive play. I bought like MetLife at the beginning of COVID thinking that it was going to explode, and it didn't. It's a solid defensive choice for insurance. I'm not super excited about it though. How neoclouds will benefit from cyclical memory squeeze. Take a look at macro rather than charts. So Nick, the reason why, so as far as neoclouds are concerned, there will be winners and losers. You should go look at CoreWeave's balance sheet. Very ugly. The $2.5 billion credit facility that they just had to raise, which is 5.5 points above current benchmarks, doesn't help. Interest expense went up by more than $100 million quarter over quarter. They lost less money than they did last quarter, but margins are still stagnant. They're competing with some of their own customers, and what they need to achieve in order to come to profitability is a lot. It's not good. Long-term contracts for memory suppliers will kill the cycle of MU, SanDisk, and SK Hynix. Maybe. Yeah, the bear thesis for CoreWeave is much stronger than the bull one. Now, that doesn't mean others like Nebius or IREN can't improve and operate as own successful businesses, but they're like, this is not a good one. This is definitely, not a good one. Do you think 2032 will be the new 2008? I don't know. What do you think will happen when these big companies don't need to rent GPU anymore? If the price, what I think what could be a cause of a large correction, at least in the AI space, is that despite all of this investment and continued investment, if marginal cost per token or marginal cost per GPU hour used accelerates faster than marginal revenue, then you're in big trouble. Because what that essentially means is the more and more money you put into it, and the more and more expensive things get per additional unit of per additional token or per additional GPU rent hour that a GPU is rented, by NeoCloud or whoever else means that you're not going to be able to achieve economies of scale. That's an issue. And other things is like Nebius concentrated exposure. Part of the reason why Nebius was profitable is because they booked gains in their equity investment on their income statement. I mean, I had their 13F pulled up. Nebius isn't in as bad of a position as CoreWeave is, but it's not good. Their reliance on debt is an issue. You're short liquidated. I got rid of my first short in CoreWeave, Isaac. It was I shorted at 102 a share, and I got out when it was about 67 a share. Applied Materials. Yeah, I mean, we were looking at their price after hours. I know they announced their earnings. I think the call is in about 15 minutes here. 9.1 billion in revenue this quarter, which is 25% year over year, quite good. I think it was a revenue beat, earnings miss for Applied Materials. What about the $500 billion NVIDIA deal with banks to help finance GPUs? Teo, go look at the video I just posted about that. Yeah, I mean, if we have NVIDIA GPU-backed securities, NVIDIA GPU-backed bonds, yeah, I mean, if you think subprime CMBS was bad back in 2007, this may be another thing entirely. Like that. Yeah. Did you hear about the relaunch of MySpace? If yes, any thought? I did not hear about that, Olaf. Thoughts on RTX? Solid defense contractor. A lot to like about them. My defense exposure right now is in Lockheed Martin, so you're probably going to get a similar performance out of them unless they nail some massive contract. But, you know, a solid defense contractor. I like them. Thoughts on Micron long term? We'll see how the memory cycle goes. Solid day for Micron. But I think that's probably because of SanDisk's investor day that they recently had. So I think Micron popped on the news that SanDisk had at its investor day. You've been saying CoreWeave is a dead cat since it almost doubled. What do you have to say? I have to say that the balance sheet got worse. Despite the fact that revenue is improving, the quality of the company's balance sheet got worse, and it's getting more and more reliant on bigger and bigger customers it had. So not only... And margins are stagnant. So, yeah, I mean, I don't care if the market thinks it's worth more. I'm still holding my short position on them because quality of revenue decreased since last quarter. Quality of earnings arguably decreased because revenue quality got worse and margins remained stagnant. They added a lot more debt onto their balance sheet. A lot more. I mean, interest expense went up by more than $100 million quarter over quarter alone. And if they have if they have another construction delay again, they have to go perfectly. It has to go perfectly for them. Who are we talking? I'm talking about CoreWeave. Someone had a comment about CoreWeave earlier. Sold Dell at 505. Buy the dip. What do you think? Reed, I don't know. Maybe. I don't like, to be honest, there's a lot more things I've been paying closer attention to lately than Dell. I'd have to see exactly what Dell's up to nowadays. They've kind of been flying under the radar a little bit, at least from what I've been looking at, doing my homework on. It could be an interesting one. It could be an interesting play. They've had an amazing year. So I don't know, Reed. I mean, like if you got a solid bull thesis for Dell at this point, I'd love to know it. Thoughts on EHR new bookings and $100 million backlog? Still think it's overvalued right now at 120. Not a ton. Still need to do a little bit more homework on them. Are you still short CoreWeave? Thoughts on their earnings? Yes, I'm still short CoreWeave. Their revenue growth, like that's great news for them. Fundamentals deteriorated. Outside of Lockheed, what other defense plays do you like? D-Rich, I think Rheinmetall could be an interesting play. because I think they have the most to gain due to increased budgets from European countries. I think they're the best positioned European defense contractor right now. Appreciate the Harmy. Thank you. Are they reporting today? Who are we talking about? Who are you asking about? Any thoughts on Applied Digital? I don't like how they're losing money. They should be making money. Here's what Applied Digital's fundamentals look like recently. Like, I don't like this. This isn't with the amount of CapEx dollars that's going into AI. You should be making money if you're Applied Digital. $258 million in revenue Q2, and they lost $109 million. Looks like there might have been an equity raise in Q2 as well, because they may have been running out of cash. Annually, it's not great either. So, Applied Digital, this isn't something that I'm super stoked about, to be honest. I think that there are other plays that would be more interesting than Applied Digital. Like, I'd rather get into SMCI, and I know the legal problems that they're having, or Micron or something like this, or maybe like Vistra Networks. Sold AEHR 125. My AC was 76. What do you think about the $100 million backlog? I'd have to take a look at it, Tio. That's a nice spot to be in, though. Good trade. Thoughts on INTR? Inter & Co. Haven't heard of them. Who are these guys? Banking and spending investments, insurance brokerage, and intershop businesses in Brazil and the U.S. I've never heard of this company before. Looks like they're a Brazilian financial services firm. What do you like about them? Why, Matt? What's your take on these guys? Thoughts on Credo? It's up 21% this last week. We'll take a look at it, Eric. Thoughts on IREN? I of all the neoclouds, I'd like IREN the most. I'm still not super bullish long term on neoclouds though. Holding Nebius, bought at 240 in June. What should I do? Honestly, I'd sell, but that's like that. Like you're. I would take. To be honest, I would take profits if I were you, but that's just my opinion. Okay. Who asked me about? Someone asked me about Eric Credo. Is that their ticker, Eric Credo? Credo Technology, CRDO, these guys? So what specifically are semiconductors? Okay. High-speed connectivity solutions for Ethernet PCI applications. U.S., Taiwan, China, Hong Kong. Okay. So I need to know why. So this is like pretty expensive. I mean, it's almost a $50 billion market cap, and how do their fundamentals look? They look good, at least year over year. Not bad. That's really impressive growth from the fourth quarter 25 to the first and 26. Balance sheet looks pretty healthy too. Free cash flow negative. That's not a huge problem. It looks like they're making a nice chunk of money. It says so. This is $437 million in revenue to $169 million in net income in the second quarter. It's a 38.7% margin. That's pretty good. I'll have to take a look at them. We all got from the storm yesterday. I did not have power for like 36 hours. It sucked, but we're good. Appreciate the question. Um, so as far as Credo technology, it feels expensive. The growth looks like it's been good though. I'd have to take a closer look. I mean, I'll throw it on a short list. Thoughts on buying Apple now, Callum? I'm always going to hold my shares in Apple. Um, yeah, like this feels like a good price for Apple. Um, am I going to load up on more Apple right now myself? Probably not. I'm exploring other opportunities that I think are a little bit more interesting than this. But this isn't a crazy price to pay for Apple, I don't think. Why always? Um because I think Apple very long term, I'm probably going to hold it. It's always going to be prevalent. I think Apple's always going to be relevant. The staying power of the company is just too strong. Waste management long term, Eric, it's one of my favorite defensive plays at the moment. I really like waste management. Solid company. Insane market share that they have. Solid vertical integration. There's not a ton of room for growth, but it's a solid pick for a defensive play. You get a nice 1.6% yield out of them. Not bad. Hidden gem, I love this. Well, thank you, Elliot. Welcome, welcome. Bryson says Salesforce. Go look at Salesforce. Oh, Salesforce popped a bit. Okay. A fun comparison is always looking at Salesforce compared to what ServiceNow is doing. ServiceNow is more popular. There's no doubt. And there's reasons to think that ServiceNow should be more popular. Salesforce looks like it's slowly kind of getting out of that. It's an old dinosaur narrative. Um, their earnings come out. They got earnings in 2 weeks, so maybe we'll watch that together for Salesforce. What's a hidden gem you like right now? Eric, do you define like a hidden gem like a micro cap or like a small cap company, or like how do you define that? Only because of Workday? Yeah. What happened to AMAT? I believe it was an earnings miss, but a revenue beat. Stings a little bit. Still hang on to them though. Stock that I think is pretty undervalued right now. One of the most undervalued stocks that I've seen in the market right now is Reddit. Reddit's fundamentals are insanely good. Um, the growth in advertising has been extremely impressive for Reddit. It took a hit recently because right here is when that story about basically Google saying we're still trying to find out how to work out the AI content licensing. The market hated that. And I was like, that's fine with me because I'll load up on more shares, and that's exactly what I did. Would I buy Reddit? Yeah, yes, I love Reddit at this level. Novo Nordisk. What's interesting about Novo Nordisk is why it's being treated so differently relative to its earnings compared to Eli Lilly. They're the GLP-1 leader in Europe. They're my favorite European pharmaceutical company. But they're only getting an 11.5 PE, whereas Eli Lilly is somewhere around 50, I think. So that it's an interesting comparison to make. I think it's worth finding out why. Why are neoclouds dropping today? An opinion on IREN. I'd imagine neoclouds are investors are taking profits, and the fantastic earnings the good earnings report that Nebius had and CoreWeave had this week. Thoughts on Airbnb? Not a ton, to be honest. I don't really follow Airbnb that closely. It's not that not that exciting. Rheinmetall, can you share more insights? I can. I probably should. And I should also probably I need to do a deep dive on Rheinmetall. Don't have a ton of thoughts on Rheinmetall at the moment. What I do know is that they're extremely well positioned as a European defense contractor to take advantage of what could potentially be very likely budget increases in European defense budgets. There's a lot to like about Rheinmetall. As far as Airbnb is concerned, it seems fine. How'd they do this year? Pretty good. Wow, they just popped. Okay. Strong Q2 earnings. Nice. And good guidance. That was probably the time to be a shareholder for them. Can we look at AEHR? Yeah. We'll look at AEHR. So first, let me just pull up the ticker here. And TO, are these the guys you're talking about? Test Systems Inc., Semiconductor Equipment and Materials. For testing burn-in semiconductor devices at the wafer level, singulated die package level. Okay. Got it. Okay, so these are the guys. Interesting. Small company. There's only 138 employees with a $4 billion market cap. How do their fundamentals look? So Q2 was good. 18 million in revenue. Whoa. Okay, wait a second. So 2026. Well, 2025 they did 59 million in revenue on a $4 billion market cap. Bro. That's like SpaceX levels of price to sales. Yeah, very expensive at the very least. I'd need to know the story with these guys. So Teo, at face value, yes, it feels massively overvalued. I'd need to know why though. There's probably more to the story on this. Interesting though. I mean, yeah. Thoughts on Uber being up 10% this week? I'd imagine that's probably because of the happenings with, like Nancy Pelosi getting in. I have heard some grumblings or some rumors that Uber might acquire Grab. The fundamentals of Uber look decent. The growth story isn't super exciting with them, but we'll see. They multi-million-dollar orders for their wafer and over $100 million backlog. Yeah, but a $4 billion market cap for that? Oof. That's expensive. It's just overpriced. Yeah, yeah. It's expensive. Thoughts on SK Hynix? SK Hynix is the Korean version of Micron. They talk the talk and walk the walk, at least for right now. There's a lot to like about SK Hynix. Can we check out Bros? Yeah, Dutch Bros. So Dutch Bros does follow, I believe. Okay, so they reported strong Q2 results, 32% revenue growth, while planning to acquire 65 former Salad & Go locations. This year has not been great for them, at least so far. Their last earnings report was not good. So they're at a 69 trailing PE. How does that compare against Starbucks? I imagine that's cheaper. No, it's a little bit more expensive actually. Starbucks is at a 63. So with Dutch Bros, one thing I'd want to know is, oh no, Step Bros. The one thing I'd want to know with Dutch Bros is, do they follow the franchise model, or like how many corporate locations do they have? Because if it's a franchise model, then it becomes a real estate game. Which is basically means they need to find enough space for their franchisees. So that's the first question I have. The second is, what do their margins look like? And if it's a franchise model, then I think it's probably too expensive for what it is. Yeah, pretty thin. It looks like this is probably the franchise model because so they did 550 million in the second quarter 2026, to about 37.4 million in net income. So that's about a 7% margin, a little bit less. I don't know. I'd have to learn more about how the business operates. It feels expensive though, to be honest. When they mean to be a hold or sell. Subash, depends on what you got in at. If you like your profits, then maybe think about taking them. TSSI, they're different than most neos. They rent out the campus and don't buy the GPUs. So they a developer? Are they like the actual real estate developer? They rent out the campus, but don't buy the GPUs. So they rent out the real estate? Information technology and services. Engages the planning, design, deployment, and maintenance of fresh end-user enterprise systems. The company operates through 3 segments: procurement, facilities management, and system integration. IT equipment, deployment services, including client products. Okay. So they basically help people, it looks like, get all of their hardware online and help maintain it. Rough day, though. Wow. Especially after hours. Damn. Look at that. That's pretty ugly. Q2 earnings today. Estimate of 47 million in revenue and 6 cents in earnings per share. Okay. And who is this? TSS Inc. Let's go to their investor relations. Thoughts on MP Materials. As far as MP Materials is concerned, Ben, oh, what? No, I'm not trying to print. I just want to read the full page. As far as MP Materials, I mean, they're in an interesting spot. I know I said it earlier. I know magnets and rare earths aren't the same thing. USAR would be a more interesting play to me. Got into NBIS at 212, hold or sell. Read, if you like those profits, I would consider taking them. So TSS, these guys are down 23% after hours. Really good growth, at least according to them. Revenues, all okay. So this is second quarter highlights. Revenues of 35.1 million, down 20%. Okay, so they're down on. Ouch. So they were expected to do 47 million. 47.1 million. They only did 35. Ugh. Well, they could have been interesting, but I guess not anymore. I don't know. Can we look at IoT? Their earnings look good. Yeah, let's go look at it. And thoughts on Nike? Mid to long term, I'm bullish on Nike. That's not a popular take. I'm totally aware of that. And I know a lot of people don't like Nike right now. My target price for Nike, Jahandra, is about 57 a share. From what I'm hearing, IoT's earnings were good. Samsara, it's so expensive though, bro. Like, the company's connected operation platforms include Data Platform, which ingests, aggregates, and enriches data from IoT services, growing ecosystem of connected assets and third-party systems, which has embedded capabilities for AI workflows, analytics, charts, API connections, data security, and privacy. That sounds like Palantir's ontology. Video-based safety, telematics, visibility, real-time GPS tracking, all that kind of stuff. It's an expensive stock though. I mean, like if hang on. Yeah, so you're basically so 44.5 million in net income on 479 million in revenue. It's a 9.3% margin, and you're basically paying. What does Barron say its market cap is? I'm going to go back here. $23 billion market cap. A little expensive, especially from a PE perspective. The trailing 12-month PE, according to Yahoo Finance, is over 400. That's very expensive. And absolutely, Jahander, you're welcome. Core Mining. Baptiste, do you have a ticker for them? BMY. I think, Bryson, you asked this if this is a good defensive play, right? Because if if that was the case, if that was your question, yeah, I do think it's a good defensive play. Yeah. No, I mean, the things to like about this are that you're getting a beta of 0.22, which is very low, with a 4% dividend yield. That's fantastic. And it's been a pretty good year for them. This is like, I'd call this like an S tier defensive play. 100%. What about Netflix? I'm sitting on the sidelines for Netflix now. And USARTO, I like USAR for its exposure to rare earth. Mining companies are a little risky for it. It's risky. That's the thing. Tempest AI. So we're at a $9.8 billion market cap on a company that does how much in revenue? Because I'd imagine they're probably not profitable. I know you guys can't see it, but this beta right here says 2.65. This is worth seeing. Nearly 1/3 of the public float is being shorted. And no data provided, so I got to go to the filings themselves. What's the play here? Yeah, 1.27 billion in revenue in 2025. Okay. All right, so you have to have a pretty high conviction bull thesis about this company. It's been all over the place this year. I don't know. What Matt, what do you like about this? What's so cool about these guys? What defensive stock were you just on? Dill Muncher, we were looking at Bristol Myers Squibbs, Bristol Myers, BMY. Tempest AI, I don't get it. It's expensive. Yeah, applied AI for medical use case. Got it. Take-Two, Patrick 89. Take-Two Interactive is. I'm very bullish on Take-Two Interactive. Love the stock. Love what they're doing. Very excited about what's going to happen with these guys. Was up 10% last night too. Brought more to double down. Alex, which ticker? And Patrick, Service Corporation International. Is that what's the? Oh, okay, SCI. Oh, on Ondas. Yeah, I mean, listen, but Ondas was getting expensive though. Can we look at IoT? Their earnings look good. Yeah, we did look at IoT, Nate. With respect to IoT, Samsara is expensive, man. It's expensive, especially for the amount of revenue. Service Corporation International. Who are these guys? Consumer Cyclical Personal Services. International Death Care Products and Services in the U.S. and Canada. Funeral Services, Cemetery Operations. Dang. All right. So these guys just made a whole... You can get urns, flowers, home facilities, embalming, creation, prep, removal. Wow. They do it all. There's 25,000 employees. Wow, that's crazy. I would not expect to see an $11.3 billion market cap funeral company. Fascinating. I don't know. I mean, it feels like a defensive play because you're getting... So you're at a P of just over 20, a beta of less than 1, and you get above a 1.5% yield. This feels like a defensive play. Decent year so far. Nothing too crazy. I mean, I like the only time to get in, I think, with these guys, if it's could be a technical move, but I'd have to learn more about it. It's a defensive play. Could be interesting, yeah. I think Take-Two is going to go down after the GTA 6 release. No, I don't. No. It's either Ondas or Red Cat. I wanted to play the earnings call, and it is what it is. Yeah, I mean, listen. So, like, I've called Ondas overvalued before. I'm not going to, claim victory and point the finger and say I told you so. Because there could be a really strong growth case for a company like Ondas. It was getting expensive. It was getting a bit expensive. That doesn't mean that somebody can't have a good high conviction bull case. Remember what you said about INBS? I'll show you my profits in a few weeks. What did I say about them again? Oh yeah, that I wasn't really interested in this, I believe. Yeah, they're like a fingerprint drug tester or something like this. Yeah, semicolon or whatever your username is. Please do. Yeah, if you think you can prove me wrong, I'm all about it. I'd be interested to see what the results are. Goldman just recently acquired NEOS Investments, which owns $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. Thoughts? Cool. I mean, when is the deal closed? Like, did this happen, Baymax? Because if you want to get into Bitcoin, or like if you want to have exposure to a publicly traded company with a lot of Bitcoin, then get into MSTR Strategy Inc. But that's just a terrible that's the foundation of that business is built on quicksand. This company for sure. So yeah, as far as NEOS, it could be interesting, but Texas Pacific Land Corp. Own land in Texas and get royalties, high margin. Is that a REIT, Patrick? It sounds like a real estate investment trust. Thoughts on Wendy's private takeover? That's interesting, if that's the case. Yeah, I did read this news. What was the tender offer though? No REIT, they own land. If you like it, Patrick, I'd say consider it for sure. Thoughts on Marvel for short-term play? Nathan, depends on how you define short-term. With Wendy's takeover, what was the try and offer at? I think it was at $12 a share. Yeah, so here's where the announcement was. 12 or 14. Guys, unfortunately, I got to run. I got to call it a stream, but I appreciate everybody's thoughts. I appreciate everyone joining today. I had a ton of fun talking with you guys. Thoughts on MP Materials? It's an magnets are an interesting space. I'd rather take USAR. But I appreciate everyone joining today. I had a ton of fun with you guys. I'll be back tomorrow. Unfortunately, I was gone yesterday just because of lack of power at my house. But I will be back. And we'll talk more tomorrow. We'll kind of see where the market's at tomorrow. So make sure you hit follow if you haven't already. Really appreciate everybody who did today. And if you guys have any questions, DMs are open. And if you guys need more answers on what I'm doing or like deeper answers, if you weren't satisfied with any of my answers today, go to my YouTube channel. That's where I do deep dives on companies. So go check that out. Hit subscribe on YouTube. It'd mean a lot to me. Really appreciate it, you guys. Thank you so much. And we'll talk tomorrow. Everyone have a good one.